Hey everybody, this is Amy Coleman'sberger and welcome. I want to thank all of you all who came to my first live 2 weeks ago um, and for your support and your comments, and it was a lot of fun and I totally enjoyed it. So I said that I was going to do a live on planning and how I use my Sunday evenings to plan and to set good goals. And so that's what I'm going to go over today. And I'm going to try to jump right in because I feel like there's a lot here and I don't want it to be overwhelming. And so, take what works for you and ditch the rest. So I am married to Mike. I'm a mother of 6 and I'm a home educator, and I write weekly at my blog, middlemercies.com, for women who are in the middle years of life and faith and mothering. And the way that I've been goal setting and planning, really goal setting the last couple years and really working those goals out more effectively in the last 6 months, has been through this new rhythm that I started last September. And I feel like what it did was it helped me regain some of that young mother energy that I used to have. And I feel like in the younger years, hey Renee, I had so much energy and vision. And I think that once you get into the middle years of parenting and life, you can get so tired and you can get disillusioned and you can kind of lose your way and not even recognize that you've done that. And so some of the things I'm going to share with you today have helped me regain some of that vision and to live life well and on purpose according to my priorities. And why do I do Sunday evening? A practice that I've started is to take Sabbath from Saturday evening. I don't do sundown, I do Saturday dinner. After dinner to Sunday dinner, I rest. And for me, what rest looks like is no social media, minimum cooking. Usually we do Sunday subs. That's like one of our things. And paper plates, anything that keeps the dishes for a family of 8 to a minimum. And I'm really trying to create presence with the Lord and with my family. It's much less about restriction and more about creating room to connect with the Lord and with those that I love, and to connect with myself through reading or taking a nap or whatever it is that I need on the Sabbath. And then from that place of rest, that 24 hours of rest, after dinner on Sunday evening, I then move into work. So we want to work from a place of rest. And so Sunday evening is the time that I plan my work for the week. Now, this is not where I plan homeschooling because my kids are in a homeschool hybrid 2 days a week. And so I don't have a lot of homeschool planning to do. The child that I do have at home, I have my rhythm set with him, so it doesn't require much planning. So this is not homeschool planning. That's a whole nother can of worms that I'm not good at. I won't be talking about that. This is personal planning for how I want to live my life and order my week according to my personal goals. And so a lot of what I'm sharing is some ideas that I learned from Edie Wadsworth. She blogs at lifeingraceblog.com. And she shared these ways of how she uses her bullet journal and her planner. And I started trying it the way that she does it, and it completely worked for me. And I'm very resistant to planning. I really value living intuitively, and I kind of like to kind of blow with the wind wherever my intuition takes me. And so I'm not a hardcore type A plan your life out person. So those of you who naturally plan, who naturally use calendars well and are very administrative, this is probably going to not seem amazing to you. You're probably going to be like, duh, I do all that. That's not for you. These are for those of us who hate planning and have viewed planning kind of as a straitjacket, and it doesn't come naturally. So I've had to work hard to learn to plan. It doesn't come naturally. And so hopefully you'll get something out of this that's helpful. So how I start my planning in life is through goal setting. And there are a million people out there that can teach you all the great ways to goal set. What I've used the last couple years is Laura Casey's Power Sheets. And this is just a great tool that she sells every year that's worth the price. It's like the price of a counseling appointment. And so if you need counseling like we all do, you could spend that money for one session on this and it will give you so much counseling. So what she does is she helps give you clarity of who you are, what fires you up, what drains you, what hasn't been working, what is working, and make your goals out of that place. Also, when you're goal setting, you want to make good and meaningful goals that relate to your actual life. We don't want to do wishful thinking or pie in the sky stuff. We need to figure out what are my current priorities and responsibilities, and what are good goals that I can make in those areas. And for each one of us, that's completely different. And I love that Edie says that we don't need more time. We actually need better priorities and better skills. And so I feel like really getting our priorities where they need to be, and then learning some skills like this, we don't need more time. I actually feel like I have more time on my hands now because I'm really living very intentionally. And so I don't feel maxed out, and I feel like I'm living within where I know God is calling me right now. So let me give you some examples of goals that I had in 2016. In 2016, my word for the year was tend. And I really felt like as I thought through some 10 goals for 6 months, this does not need to be high and mighty. My goals were all under that topic of tending. And so as I looked at tending, I thought I'm going to look holistically at myself. And so I thought I want to move into greater health physically. That was a very simple, basic goal. And then under that, I wrote down some ideas of how I could tend myself physically. So for me, I wrote down drinking plenty of water, getting a Yeti cup, using my Fitbit daily, and maybe doing some challenges, reducing my sugar, taking a course. Another goal I had was move into greater emotional health. So under that, I decided I would maybe pursue taking a Brene Brown course on Living Brave. I wrote down practice saying I was wrong, will you forgive me? I wrote down refuse gossip and superiority. I put get enough quiet so that I can have a quiet spirit with others. So those were ideas that I wrote down under those goals. So I put spiritual health, I put meditate on being the beloved, use prayer beats to build a prayer rhythm that was tactile. I wrote down lots of other stuff. I'm not going to get into each of those, but as you can see, I put spiritual health, emotional health, physical health. I put to live celebratory. So some ideas that I jotted down under that were buy balloons for birthdays, plan it 3 weeks in advance, wrap presents thoughtfully, use pre-made foods if I need to. I also wanted to tend my home. So that looked like decluttering, getting less furniture in my home, using cleaning products that smelled good and that were appealing to me, cleaning out our TV dresser, DVDs, and CDs. Another goal was working creatively with my hands. Ideas for that, to tend to my teens' education, to tend to my little guys, to tend to my marriage, to tend to my friendships. And then under each one of those goals that were kind of broad, I wrote down some action ideas. And so when you think about your goals, you think about your priorities. For me, my priorities are my spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical health. So I always come up with some goals under those. My marriage is a priority. That's how we finally started having weekly date nights, as I started writing it down, that was a goal of mine, was to go out with Mike consistently. To work creatively, I've written down I want to start writing consistently and blogging consistently. I want to serve my reader. I want to start learning how to do Facebook Lives. Like, these are all goals that I have written down under my living creatively. So, as you can see, you need to figure out what are my priorities and responsibilities in this season in my life. Most of you who are watching this are married and have kids. So begin to think, as a mother, my priorities are my children, my husband, my own health, my home, my work. If I work outside the home, if I work inside the home, my work. Make a list of what your current priorities and responsibilities are. And then under each of those, start just brainstorming some basic ideas of how you want those areas to grow. And write it down in a scratch notebook. You know, this doesn't need to be anything fancy, anything complicated. This is just brain dumping some goals. My current goals for 2017 were to start Sunday night planning, to do it consistently. That was a goal. Another goal of mine was to honor the Sabbath, to unplug for that 24 hours. One of mine is to study the word wait in Scripture. So as you can see, they're different from last year. They're actually a little bit more focused, a little bit more tangible, practical. So that's the first thing, is narrow down what your priorities are in this current season, not for the next year, not for the next 5 years, like 3 to 6 months, small. And after you have written all those down, and you've written down some ideas under each one of your goals, that is where the weekly planning is going to take place. I'm looking around because I want to show you my bullet journal. So this is my bullet journal. I don't bullet journal like other people do. I do it more like Edie Wadsworth does, where this is just a brain dump, where I have all kinds of things that I write down in here with no rhyme or reason. But the difference is, in the front of this book, I have, trying to open this up, I have a table of contents. I started this notebook after I learned about this system, and so I had to tape this in. But what you're doing in your bullet journal is you're writing down your different ideas, like you could write your goals in here. This is where I write my weekly plan. This is where I write poems, blogging ideas, all of that. But the difference is in the front, you write a table of contents where you number each of the pages in your journal, in this bullet journal, and then you write what it was with the number by it so that you can go back and find all the amazing things later. So I have written down, page 22 has some blog topic ideas. Page 27 has some of the Psalms that I copied down from the Message Bible. Page 32, I wrote down an autumn and Thanksgiving book list for my kids. Page 36 has Henry's 5th birthday brainstorm. So this is where I keep all the great ideas that come to me in life in a random notebook. Edie uses composition books. Y'all, these are 99 cents. Nothing fancy. I found this pretty one at Walgreens. These were at Walmart. A fun green and white stripe, little black dot. $1. You open it up. The first page, you could write a quote, something like that. Doesn't matter. Don't get crazy with it. Then make your table of contents, where you write at the top, table of contents. Leave these 2 pages blank for that. And then as you write down ideas in your life, birthday gift list, birthday ideas, Easter's coming, ways that you want to decorate, whatever. This can be anything. You write it in here, but you number up at the top. So say this is page 10, and I have an Easter menu of what I want to cook that day. In the front, the table of contents, I put page 10, Easter menu, so that you can find all your good ideas later. So in my bullet journal, that is where I make my 10 weekly goals. So what I do is on Sunday evening, I look at my goals that I've made for the year, and I also look at my calendar for anything that's coming up. Sorry, I'm flipping around. So here's this week's. all I do is write at the top 10 goals. And these flow out of my bigger goals that I've made in my life, plus upcoming things that I see that are in my calendar that I need to pay attention to. So I've looked at this week's calendar and I see that I really don't have a lot going on. So that's good. I don't have a lot of things that I need to do in regards to this week. But I know that next week I'm supposed to turn in some baby photos of Sam for his graduation ceremony. So I'm writing, one of my goals this week is to find Sam's baby photos in the attic, because this was before digital, so I have to find these hard copies and scan them and get them to the school. I also I looked ahead to March, because we're almost to March, and I see that Lent is starting the 1st of March. And so every year I like to decorate a side table in our dining room with some Lent ideas. So I've looked ahead, I see that Lent's coming, and so in order to do the things that I want to do with intention, I go ahead and write it for this week. I write down, decorate the side table for Lent. I also recognize that the weather's warming up and that we are in full-blown spring here in South Carolina, and so I put, in order to tend my home, I put, begin putting away the winter coats and heavy clothes. I see that in March, my fourth son has a science fair, and so I'm thinking, okay, we're a month out. What do I need to do this week to move us forward on the science fair? I need to buy the ingredients that he needs. So I'm not trying to complete the whole science fair this week. I'm trying to break down these priorities that I have into smaller steps for the week. I also want to take care of myself this week. So I put practice yoga 3 times, whether on YouTube or the Holy Yoga site, which is a Christian website who teaches you yoga poses and how to focus on the Lord as you're doing it. I'm also in the middle of PMS, which I alluded to on Instagram, and so one goal of mine this week is to listen to a few podcasts about PMS and regulating your hormones. So that's on here. So very simple. Notice I didn't even do 10. I did 8. Okay? And then I always put a piece of washi tape going across, and then I write my menu plan down. Notice I haven't even filled it all in yet. So we're not trying to be perfect here and to nail it every week. We're just trying to grow our lives little by little, week by week, tending them, investing in them, and moving our lives forward in timely, non-stressful ways, instead of living overwhelmed and procrastinating or trying to carry it all up in our heads, which is what I've done for a million years, is I just hope that everything happens, and it doesn't, and balls drop, and it's so stressful. And once it's out of my mind and onto paper, it moves me from wishful thinking to intentional living. So that's why it's so important to write things down. You want to write goals down. You want to keep them in front of you. I keep this notebook with my 10 goals for that week open on my desk. This notebook does not get shut. I don't close it up and bury it in a stack of books next to my bed, because then I won't do it. So this stays open to this page. That's why I like spiral bound. I bought this at Target for like $4 or $5. And this has lasted me 4 months, and I write in it consistently. So this stays open on my desk. I'm looking at it every day, every other day. If I'm at a loss for what to do, instead of jumping on my phone, I go and look at my 10 goals and say, what is one thing I can do to move forward in this today? So that brings me to how I use then my calendar. So my bullet journal and my calendar work together. Some people who are true bullet journal gurus keep like a planner within their bullet journal. I don't do that. My bullet journal is just a place to brain dump and to keep ideas in and to number the pages and keep a table of contents so that I can find my ideas later. That's it for me. So what I do is I sit down on Sunday nights, like I said, I write down my 10 goals. These flow out of big, broad goals, but they also flow out of the very practical world of my calendar and what my kids have going on. And then what I do, is I keep a paper clip. I use the Emily Lay Simplified Planner. You don't have to have a big, fancy, expensive planner. This is expensive. I use it because I have found that if I invest good money in something and in something pretty, I will use it. And one thing that I've learned about bullet journals and planners is we cannot get hung up on perfectionism of making it look pretty and scrapbooky and this amazing thing that we're going to get overwhelmed by and not use. You need the freedom to write all over it. It does not need to be neat. The planner or calendar is to serve you. You are not to serve your planner. So you need to have the freedom to write all over it. You know, some days are busier than others. I have whiteout on it. So don't be afraid to write all over your planner. Don't be afraid to spend money on a planner because this is what's going to help you get things done. The best planner for you is the planner you'll actually use. So if a cheapy Target planner is what works for you, do it. You know, if it scares you too much to make a mess in something expensive, you know, buy something cheap. The thing is start trying to use a planner and write all over it. Stop trying to keep these planners pristine and lovely. They don't need to be that. That's not even the point. The point is for them to serve you so that you can serve your family and your friends and your community well. So don't serve the planner. Have the planner serve you. So on Sunday nights, I look at these 10 goals, and what I do is I try to take 2 or 3 of those and I input them onto each day of my planner. Okay, so one of my goals was this week to do a Facebook Live. So I wrote that in Tuesday at 11. I did that Sunday night. Another one of my goals I said was to spend 1 hour on a writer's website called Compelled Training. That is written down for Thursday. Decorate my side table for Lent. I have written that down to do tomorrow afternoon, Wednesday afternoon. The podcasts, I'm not scheduling those. I'm just looking at it and seeing that I want to do that. And so when I'm in the car or I go for my walks, I'm going to make sure that I'm listening to those. Put away the winter coats and the heavy clothes. I wrote that down for Friday morning. So you're taking your 10 goals and you're taking them one by one and you're inputting them onto different days of the week in your planner. So you only end up with 2 or 3 per day, which is manageable, which is how we want to live. My MO in the past is to make this giant to-do list with like 30 things. And then I work myself like a dog into the ground all day Monday, so that I can get most of it done. I wake up exhausted on Tuesday, still trying to push through and get it all done, and I make myself and my family miserable. So I'm getting away from a to-do list mentality and trying to look at my week as a whole, make good goals based on good priorities, and then break those goals down into the different days in my planner. So I'm only doing 2 to 3 things a day. And we think, well, that's not very much. Well, let me tell you, if I knock out all these 10 things in a week, that's a lot. It gives me momentum. I'm moving forward. And those 10 goals over 4 weeks, which is a month, means I've done 40 things and completed them. I don't always complete all of them, but a lot of times I do. So I might complete 35 of the 40. And I don't know that in years past I could look back at a month and say that I really completed 30 to 40 really solid things that fell in line with my goals and priorities in life. So, and you're also making sure that the important things in your life are getting done versus the urgent things. And I think in our fast-paced society and being hyper-connected, we start living by the urgent. And when we plan our lives and we see today, I really need to get these 2 or 3 things done for myself and for my family, those are going to come first. Then if someone calls and needs me to do something, or I'm invited to lunch or whatever, I can decide if I want to add that to what I've already planned in my life. So you stop living according to other people's plans for your life or other people's emotions or whims, and you're saying, I'm going to lead my life very intentionally, very focused, and I will allow other things to take up my time once the most important things happen first. So that has been a game changer to me. I keep a lot of this stuff for years up in my head of things that I want to do or want to get done, and a lot of times they wouldn't get done, or if they did, it was in such this frantic, anxious, pushy way that a lot of the joy of it was left behind. And so now, if I know that one of my goals is to live a creative life, every week I try to make one of my 10 goals something creative for me to do. So this week it's planning my Lent table for our dining room. That's my creative act for this week. I might do other creative things too. I'm learning hand lettering right now, so I'm trying to fit that in every day. But we always say, well, I don't have time to be creative, or I don't have time to be with my husband. I promise you, if you really make some good goals according to those priorities of being creative, spending time with your husband, and writing them down for that week, and then putting them in your calendar, and then leave the calendar open. And every morning when you get up, and whatever your morning routine is, it should involve looking at your calendar. I have a very wide open day today. It just has that Katie had an eye appointment at 8. Mike took her to that. I was going to do Facebook Live. They've got their last den meeting tonight, and we're having oven chicken risotto for dinner. A lot of times I'll have a to-do list of different chores that I want to get done, or some of these things that I want to get done on my list. But I have space today to do something creative, to take a walk. This might be one of the days that I do yoga. So I don't know if any of this has been helpful for you, or if you can find something in the way that I've found that's helped me to help you. But for me, it's really just been the marriage of figuring out, what do I want my life to be about? Sometimes my goals have been to invest in women. And so it's ended up being host one dinner that month, an if table, and have women to my home. Or text 3 women a week and encouraging scripture. You can make your goals about anything. So figure out, get before the Lord and pray, what are my priorities and responsibilities in this season of my life? And write them down. And then start jotting down, 5 ideas under each one of some possible action steps. And just keep that as a reference for your Sunday night planning. So when you sit down to Sunday night plan, reference what you wrote down, what you had prayed about, and say, what are some of the steps I can take this week to move myself towards those goals? And then write them down in your daily planner, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe it's just a Post-it note where you write the date of today's Post-it note and you write all those things down there. Whatever it is, move the big ideas to smaller chunks, to daily measurable goals, and you will find your life being so much more at peace and productive and simplified and healthy. I think we could all use more health in the way that we use our time. So anyway, that is it. Again, you can find me at middlemercies.com. If you have any questions, ask me down below. I'll also share a link with you to my favorite pens. I learned about these through Edie, and I love, 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 love them. They don't bleed through. They're super black. They're thick. I didn't know if I liked the thickness when I first started with them, but now I love them. So having fun tools that you like to helps you stick with it. So anyway, here's to loving our families and ourselves and the Lord most of all really, really, really well, with grace and intention and purpose. And I hope you have a great day.